They know on 3980, John has conducted a number of traffic handling trainings. Some of them pretty long form, and I asked him if he could come and do sort of an abbreviated get-to-know-it type thing for the national traffic system this evening. And also, too, while I'm talking, I'd like to remind everybody that the incentive party is this coming Saturday, and the Bridle and Saddle Pavilion. And we're going to have particularly for the newer people, newer ham radio operators, we're going to have an opportunity for them to come out and learn how to build antennas and build one and take it home with them. So thank you much.
All right, very good. John, the floor is yours, sir. Thank you, sir.
Well, good evening, everyone. And
Good evening, John.
I'm not going to talk about myself too much, but probably a little bit of an introduction. I'm John Herrington. Whiskey 3 Bravo. I'm from Giles County, and I handle a lot of traffic on 3980. As a matter of fact, so much so that I was hereby ordered to volunteer myself to be the Saturday morning control. So you got to be careful when you set a standard for yourself. But talking about traffic handling, and I handle a lot of traffic. But there's a couple things to say about it. It seems that commonly people are very intimidated about passing traffic on the air. But it's important to learn this endeavor. I'm going to give you an example, and I believe you brought one of y'all brought this up. It was about a year ago in Florida, where we had a hurricane that went through the middle part of Florida. And a lot of people were out of power, they didn't have internet or anything. And I had somebody contact me. He said, John, you're an amateur radio. I don't like to use the word ham. I like to use the word amateur. And it's not because we're not professional communicators. We are. It's because we are non-commercial. And we are supposed to be professional communicators. I can't get in touch with this person in Sebring, Florida. Can you get in touch with? You're an amateur radio operator. I said, yes, I can do that. Now, the point is, it's going to happen again sometime where there's going to be an event where some area is declared a disaster area, and somebody's going to come up to you. And all they know about us is that we're amateur operators or ham operators. That's all they know. They don't understand that we have technicians and we have generals and extras, and there's a few of us advances out there and so forth. That's all they know is we're ham operators. And they're going to come up to you and say, my great aunt who's in a nursing home up in Ohio, we can't get in touch with her because it's a disaster, they lost power, can't get through on the internet, it bounces back, or the email. Can you get in touch? And you're thinking, well, you know, I'm a technician, and all I've got is this. And you're going to start, how do I make excuses? Well, it doesn't look real good for you, and it really doesn't look good for the amateur radio group. If you have nothing more than a handheld on the repeater, and you have one of these forms, you can send traffic to your great aunt in Ohio or wherever very easily. And that's part of the national traffic system. Once you learn how to fill one of these out, and I'm not going to give a complete course on this, it's not enough time, I'm just giving you an overview of this. If y'all would like a course, I'm going to be teaching it again on the 3980 net. I've already taught it in Giles County, and I'd be more than happy to teach it anywhere else that's within reason as far as range. But to teach it properly and to really get everybody involved in it, it'd take about a 3 hour, or should I say 3 1-hour sessions. And then by that time, I'd really be pretty confident that y'all can pass traffic. But if you have this, you can pass traffic. Let's say you're a technician. I know we got some technicians in here. I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. You could fill out a form and pass it to somebody on your repeater net, to let's say somebody that's got a general class or higher, or somebody that is on the 3980 net. They're the liaison, and then they bring that traffic to the HF net, which I'm a part of that. And then from there, it goes It's in a section, then it goes regional, and then it goes to the wide area and wherever. I send traffic all over the country, and it's very easy to do. But people get intimidated by it. And part of the reason is they're afraid that when they send traffic, they're gonna do it wrong. They're gonna do something improper. They're gonna make a mistake. Okay, well, let me dispel something. You are gonna make mistakes. Everybody does. When you first start off, you're gonna make mistakes. You're gonna make a lot of them. But this is not the military. Now, I'm a former Navy submarine chief electronics technician. And I want to tell you a quick little story here, because I want to wake you all up. I was an instructor once, and every time I had military payday, right after lunch, they'd all go out to this Mexican restaurant right outside the gate and go get a big enchilada plate, and they come back to class, and I had a hard time keeping them awake. But let me tell you a little story. I was an electronics technician, third class. I had one stripe on my sleeve. And well, we got shorthanded on electricians. So they said, you know, you're pretty close to electrician. Here, do all these qualification cards and we're gonna make you an electrician. So now I'm doing double duty. Don't do things like that because you set a standard for yourself, especially in your military. Well, they got shorthanded on radio. And they said, well, you're an electronics technician. You work on these radios. We need you to be a radioman. Okay. So I did it. Now I'm in radio. And we're in an area where I'm not going to talk about, but they said, all right, we're going to come up and periscope that and stick an antenna out of the water to remove traffic. We're going to come up at this exact time. We're going to have that antenna out of the water for this very brief period of time. You better have your ducks in a row and send traffic. Okay, fine. So he came up, they stuck the antenna in the water, and I made a mistake. I didn't have the line up. So the antenna went back down, and I'm supposed to announce control radio, traffic on board. Well, I couldn't report that. I had to report something they didn't like to hear. Within 30 seconds, I had the chief radioman there in radio, along with the communications officer and the captain of the ship. And you would have thought that I had just shot somebody's mother. I thought that one chevron on my sleeve was about to go away. They called me every name in the book. Point is, we don't do that in amateur radio. This is a training environment. You're going to make mistakes. We understand that. You're going to get a lot of positive reinforcement, unlike the military, which is good at negative reinforcement. You'll never hear anybody criticizes you for passing traffic. I pass a lot of traffic, and I still make mistakes. As a matter of fact, I want to show you all something. This is year to date, from January to now, all the traffic I have passed. And I still make mistakes. So the point is this is where you hone your craft and learn how to do it. And like I said, you'll make mistakes, but the more you practice it, the better you're gonna get. But you practice during this time. We see birthday grants, well wishes, routine service messages, and so forth. But when the red flag really goes up, there's no more practicing, you're doing it. And especially for any of you that's going to get into Aries, you really have to learn this because somebody's going to come to you and say, quick, I need formal traffic and this is the message, send this to wherever. And if you've never had any traffic handling experience, you're going to be very intimidated and lost. Every one of you hopefully has got one of these little forms. I buy these by the pads. They're really cheap. You can buy these, there's a pad of 50, and I get them on gigaparts.com. It used to be $2 for a pad, now it's gone up to $3. I buy usually about 6 to 12 pads at a time to save on shipping. I didn't hear that, what do you think? That's not for me. One thing about buying these by the pads from Gigaparts, as opposed to downloading one of the forms, which you can download a free PDF file online. But the problem is, if you look on the form, here that you have in front of you, it has in the addressee block, email. I have never been able to find a PDF form online that has the capability to deliver with email. You can write that in there. It has phone number. A vast majority of traffic is delivered by phone. But in the event that we have a phone number that is just not there, all they have is an email, well, we deliver it by email. I'm going to go over just briefly as an overview of this. What seems to intimidate people the most is that very top line, which is what we call the preamble or the header. I like to use the term properly as a preamble. And I'm just going to briefly run through this, okay, because this is not a complete course on this, but I'm hoping I can instill some interest in it so somebody would want to learn how to do traffic handling. There's a few points that I can bring up that causes a lot of problems with traffic handling. Number one is I'm going to say that the phonetic alphabet is the gold standard. If you don't know your phonetic alphabet, you're going to have problems passing traffic. Now, of course, we know Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and so forth. Well, if you don't have it completely memorized or you get hung up on something because you're in the process of learning, use a common substitute. For example, let's say you can't remember the letter N. Like N, what was N? So you're copying along, you say, please copy mine, you're running it off, and you get the letters, you do a brain freeze. Use Nancy, but something that's easy to recognize. Now with that, continue on. The other thing that is probably going to help you a great deal is to listen to the traffic news. You're going to hear people that pass traffic quite well, and you'll understand you're going to hear people that are struggling to pass traffic because they're new at it. But you're going to get encouraged the whole time. You pass traffic, even if it's wrong or improper, we're tickled to death that you are breaking traffic. And you're going to get a lot of positive reinforcement for doing that. But going along to the top, we're going to kind of talk about the preamble. The message number, that's going to be unique to the station of origin. So if you're going to send a piece of traffic to, let's say, your aunt in Ohio, that message number is from your station. Whether you want to pick up the next number in your radio log or you want to start off at some particular letter, it's going to be unique to you. Then, of course, the precedence. Now, you all probably may have heard that we have more than one level of precedence. Most common is routine traffic. The precedence is a little bit different than military. How many vets have we got in here today? There's a few of you. I don't know if any of you worked in radio or not, but it's a little bit different. We have routine, that's the most common. The next tier above that is welfare traffic. So if there is an area that has been a declaration made that is a disaster area, you're going to see welfare traffic coming back and forth. And then the next higher above that is priority traffic. Let's say hospitals that get involved in incidents, in the incident command system, maybe you've heard of that. That's where you start getting priority traffic. And then the very highest is emergency. If there's any doubt about priorities and you don't use that, you will get a lot of attention. So that's pretty much easy. Now, the one that really messes everybody else is that little block that says HX, Hotel X-ray. That's what we call handling instruction. Now, probably the most common is Hotel X-ray Golf G. That is, well, I'm gonna, for lack of a better term, I'm gonna call that the general handling instruction. It means when you get this, try to deliver it the best you can. You know, if you got a phone number, you call them up. Or if the phone number doesn't work, if you got an email, send it to them. If it doesn't bounce, you can consider it delivered. All else fails, you can over on the right-hand side, it says this radio message was received at, put your information in there, put it in the envelope with appropriate postage, and you can mail it to them. Which, by the way, that's about the only time you fill out that block. Now, We send a lot of well wishes, and one in particular, I'm surprised that the ladies haven't really jumped on. And I don't want you to think I'm sexist, I'm not. Ladies like to send cards, birthday cards, anniversary cards, and so forth. My wife does it all the time. She sends cards out for all kinds of things. So does my daughter. She does that as well. Well, birthday radiograms are something that is a unique novelty. When they latch on to that, you find out like, oh wow, I could send a birthday gram to is an old schoolmate that I know that now lives out in Bend, Oregon. And it's quite a novelty to get a birthday radiogram. Oh yeah, you get a birthday card in the mail. I'm not gonna tell you how old I am, but I'll get those in the mail. It's like, okay, yeah, I got a birthday card. Yeah, I've been getting those for years now. And people feel the same way. But when they get a radiogram happy birthday message that came over amateur radiogram, that's a real novelty. You get a lot of people saying, this is great, especially when I'm the delivery station. Say, hey, I got a radiogram for you. Happy birthday and so forth. And they're ecstatic. It's like, I've never gotten one of these things. And it's actually a lot of fun. So if you have, let's say, a hotel extra, I'm going to use F, Foxtrot. After Foxtrot, you'll have a day on there. Today's the 10th, is it not? Okay. Let's say you get a radiogram, and it's got a Hotel X-ray Foxtrot figures 1-3. What does that mean? The F means hold it until the 13th. And 9 times out of 10, it's a birthday gram. In other words, hold it till the 13th, and then you call him up and give him his happy birthday message. I pass a lot of birthday traffic. I do it all the time. And it gets sometimes monotonous. I think people are tired of this, but when you find out when you're at the delivery station, people really enjoy getting that. And it's also extremely good practice. Then you have a check block. Check block is, you have in the text area, you have 25 blocks, or word blocks is what we call it. And they're in groups of 5, so you can easily count them up. Let's say I had 15 words in here. The check should read 15. That's our check and balances. And then, of course, the place of origin. If I'm originating it, I'll put my call sign in there, Whiskey 3 Bravo, or excuse me, that's the station of origin, and the place of origin would be Prospect, Tennessee, which is where I'm from. We don't usually put in the date filed unless it's a time sensitive, like you'll have another handling instruction says, if it's not delivered within 24 hours, just cancel the message. Well, obviously, you're going to have a reference of time in there, and that's probably about one of the few times you put in a time file. And of course, the file date, what date you created the message. So the preamble is not that difficult, but for some reason, it intimidates a lot of people. And the block underneath that is pretty intuitive. It's the addressee. You put down, you've got the person's first name, last name, and if they are an amateur, you put their call sign. We send out message radiograms to amateurs and non-amateurs alike. For example, I get third-party traffic. Somebody calls and says, hey, could you send a radiogram on my behalf to such and such over in Colorado? Sure, that's third-party traffic. So I can put their name and everything else in there. And when I pass traffic over the air, I'll say first name such and such, last name such and such. I'll say no call sign, so they know automatically it's going on ham. And on the signature block, instead of putting my information in there, it'll be something like love mom and dad, something to that effect. So we do a lot of third-party traffic. And it's pretty intuitive. You got the name, the address, the call sign if applicable. Phone numbers, if you have that, are highly preferable. It's like I said, the vast majority of traffic is delivered by phone. We try to get the message to an area that is nearest to the recipient as possible. I've sent one to Bend, Oregon not too long ago. To an old submarine friend of mine, who, by the way, was my leading officer, essentially my boss when I worked in radio. So I said to the radio man, happy birthday. He was tickled to death to get that. So a vast majority is by phone and also an email. A lot of times we will send by phone. We have bad phone numbers and stuff like that, or they change the phone numbers, and you would just, well, we can try it by the email. And if it doesn't bounce, you can consider it delivered. Now, we're going to get to the meat of the matter. Right underneath it is the text information. And it's pretty easy to do. The only thing I'm going to mention is we don't use periods. We substitute, instead of a period, you will use an X, or you can say initial X-ray. So I may say something like, happy birthday, Patrick, and instead of saying, putting a period, happy birthday, Patrick, period, we would say, happy birthday, Patrick, initial X-ray. That means period. It takes up one whole block. Another thing that we do in the radio, and I'm going to mention this, is, for example, if you're going to send a repeater information, like, hey, when you come to visit me, as soon as you get near the area, use this repeater 146.72. Well, that takes up a lot of block. You say 146, the next block would be dot, would be Delta, Oscar, Tango, and then the third block would be the suffix. That takes up too much. You could use what we call a mixed group. And for a decimal point, we say dot, but it means a decimal point. Decimal point is an R. So we would say something like mixed group 146 Romeo 72. Now you just use one block. So there's a few little tricks to that. And at the end, we usually have a 7-3 at the end of that. Now at the very bottom, you see where we have it says from, date, time, and the receive block, and you have the set block over to the right of that. Right above that from, you got that long line that goes all the way across, and yes, it is not marked. That's the signature block. If you're initiating the radiogram, you probably put your name and your call sign, like George, KQ4IKI, something like that, or my call sign. I would say John, common spelling for John, whiskey, 3 Bravo. And then when you get to the end of this, you have a way to transmit, that this is the end of the message. Now, let me give you an example. I send the preamble first. I'll say, please copy my message 1136, routine, Hotel X-ray Golf, whiskey, 3 Bravo, figures 15, that's for the check, by the way. Prospect, Tennessee, file date, October, figure 10, break for text. Now, take a break for a second to make sure that the receiving station is like, okay, I got everything. I took a static crash on the message number. You can give me the message number again. Oh yeah, okay, it's 1136, over. Okay, Roger, go with address. And then you read the address information to him. The name and call sign, the street number, the city, state, zip code, phone figures. Phone figures 931478640 No email address. Break for text. Once again, you stop and give a break. So the station that's copying your traffic say, oh, okay, I think I got. Could you spell the city, please? Oh yes, Prospect, I spell, Papa, Romeo, Oscar, Sierra, and on. Over. Okay, yeah, I got it. Go with text. And then you read the text to it. Read it slow. We call this the common denominator. Because a lot of times you have somebody like me. You get people that are on Medicare. They've got nothing more than a piece of paper and a pencil. They've got arthritis and deaf in one ear. They're trying to copy this. It's a common problem when people are passing traffic, especially for the first time. They get nervous and they start reading it real fast. And when you hear somebody tell you, after you say, break for signature, they go through this and please say all after happy. That means you went too fast and you really need to slow it down. So keep that in mind. When I teach traffic, I actually have them do exercises to copy this on a piece of paper and with a pencil with a good eraser. So they get an idea about what the good sending speed is. Now, you ask me, well, what's a good sending speed? All right, I can copy CW comfortably by hand with a piece of paper and a pencil, about 18 words a minute. So if you go about that speed, you're probably going to be all right. If you start rattling this off, happy birthday for me, and it's like, I can't write that fast, all right? I used to be able to do that when I was younger. I could do 20 words a minute and I could do that. I'm a lot older, I just can't keep up that much. Anyway, after you get done with the text, you will say, you get to the last one, you say figure 7-3, break for signature. And then the copying station will make sure that he's got everything correctly and the number of blocks in the text matches the check number to say, all right, go with signature. And you say, John, common spelling for John. Whiskey, 3 Bravo. Then you will say something to the effect of letting you know that this is the end. You say, end message 1136. Nothing follows. How do you copy over? He's got a good copy. He says, hi, Roger, IQSL, your message 1136. Thank you for the traffic. WW3B, KC4WBI, and your traffic is on its way. Now, that sounds really quick and easy, and it is. But to teach this and to make everybody really feel like, hey, I can do this and be confident to get on the air, I did a course that took 2 hours, 2 one-hour sessions. I think I'd like to expand that into 3 one-hour sessions because there's some advanced topics such as service messages. I get more phone calls. People call me up. I had one just yesterday. The phone rang and it's like I didn't recognize who it was. I answered it. Hello. And I said, is this John? I said, yeah, it is. He said, well, you probably don't know who this is. I said, I'm willing to bet this is an amateur radio operator with a traffic question. He said, that's exactly why I called. My number's good on QRZ, which, by the way, I want to mention this is a good time to inject this. And I understand, if you don't want to put your phone number on QRZ, I completely agree with that. And some of us, a lot of us don't do that. I personally have my phone number on QRZ because I have a lot of people call me up about traffic. But I would advocate that you please at least have your information such as your address and hopefully at least an email address. You're just a technician and you get intimidated by that. Somebody comes up to you, all they know is that you're an amateur radio operator and it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's when.